Action, and we have Matt B. from North Atlanta.
My name's Matt, and I am an addict.
Amen.
And I am from the North Atlanta area, and the name of my home group is SICK. That stands for Serenity is Common Knowledge, because we all know that SICK got us here. And that's something that I have to remember. I have to remember where I came from. And I was glad to be asked to speak, and I asked Sandy what the choices were, and she mentioned humility in action. I said, I need that one. I need that one because I forget where I heard it, but I feel that what we need to learn the most, we need to speak on, we need to become familiar with. And humility is something I need to have more of. I pulled up the definition of humility. It is a noun, a modest or low view of one's own importance, humbleness. The sentence they give is, he needs the humility to accept that their way might be better. And the antonym of that, the character defect to come out of, to learn about humility is pride. Pride is a feeling or deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. And in itself, that might seem kind of harmless, but me being an addict, I realized that I did nothing to any moderation. I mean, I grew up in as a Lutheran, right? And they talked about all things in moderation. I missed that. I never did anything in moderation. Anything that I did was big. If I did something good, it was fantastic. If I did something bad, it was horrific. It was catastrophic. I mean, I had no slow down button. I had no stop button. I guess y'all can relate. This morning when I was trying to figure out where I was going to come from, I wanted to choose a piece of literature to take out a couple of sentences. So I highlighted a few. So from More Will Be Revealed, chapter 10 in our basic text. The first thing I highlighted is, as we grow, we come to understand humility as acceptance of both our assets and our liabilities. By the time I got here, I was totally whipped. I got here in 2001. Actually my first NA meeting was in February of 2002. But and for 13 years, I called that my clean date. That was just the date of my first NA meeting. February 2nd, 2002 was the day after I attended my first meeting. I was like, that's when my clean date is. But after 13 years, I was like, you know what? That's really not when I got clean. I got clean about a month before that. There was a hospital stay as part of that. And I heard a lot, I've seen a lot of people come in and they say, well, I'm clean from this on this certain date, and I'm clean from that on this date. But, as Narcotics Anonymous, we look at the disease of addiction, period. For me, that was not just drugs. It was food, it was sex, it was relationships. Today it's Goodwill. I can't go past a Goodwill without going inside. I mean, and I'm like, well, I'm not spending a whole lot. It's Goodwill, but no, but it adds up. If you go buy 3 of them in a day, it starts to add up. It's only $20 each time I go in there. That adds up. That's a lot of money. Doesn't matter that these boots I got for $20 and they were brand new. And I saw them on a shelf somewhere, they were $200. I'm like, that's a heck of a value. That's a rationalization. It's a rationalization. We know how to do that. I also highlighted, sometimes we find ourselves caught up in old ideas, even with time in the program. The basics are always important to recovery. Willie did just a really great job of speaking a little while ago. He talked about how we have to do the same things when we got here. When I got here, I was beat, I was whipped, I was tired. I knew that my way of living no longer worked. It really didn't ever work, and it took a long time to formulate that way of living. It was a lot of denial and saying, no, this doesn't exist, and push against it. And I didn't realize that you ignore something long enough, it gets louder and louder. They talk about if you shove something into the basement, and you keep shoving things into the basement, after a while the basement will take you over. I should know, my sister's a hoarder. Anyway, but that's also part of my story, definitely. I don't need to go laugh about that, because that's something that I went through in recovery. I realized that in the family I grew up in, me being the youngest, I was the drug addict. The one next to me in age was the gambler, and sometime embezzler. The one next in age, going to oldest, was a hoarder, and then the oldest was a Republican. No, it wasn't. That wasn't the whole thing. But he was the one that felt like he had to be perfect. He was the one that was made to feel that he had to be another parent. So being the youngest of 4 kids, I had a lot of bosses, right? So when I was confronted with a situation where my sister called me up, she said, I'm getting evicted. I just turned 49. She's 9 years older than me. And I wanted to help. I wanted to make the family proud. I didn't have a long track record of making the family proud. So I was like, okay, I know this isn't going to work. I know it's not going to work, but I'm going to do it because the family's going to be proud of me for doing it, right? I did have a habit of taking on more on my plate than really needed to be there, biting off more than I could chew. Anybody relate? So I took it upon myself, an addict in recovery, and also somebody that lives with bipolar disorder, and I take medication for that. I've been hospitalized 4 times for that. I took upon myself that responsibility of someone with a definite disease, slightly different than my own, but still based in addiction and denial. And thought, hey, that's going to be all right. That's going to be cool. Kind of. But then after a while, I could see that it wasn't working, and her stuff started to ruffle up and ignite my stuff. And I started to not do very well, and I started to notice it. I started wanting to avoid going home. And that's not a comfortable place for me to be, wanting to avoid going home, because what happens when I'm avoid going home, my safe zone or whatever, then I feel like I have to be out, and staying out late as a youngster never equated to a lot of good choices. It just never did. When I come home, I want to make sure that home is a safe zone for me. That there's no alcohol there, that there's no kind of other drugs there, none. But I also took on my sister's issues and her sickness, and it was starting to really put me in a bad spot. So I kicked her out. And at 16, when it happened, 16 years clean and 17 years, I became ostracized by my family. My brothers, the other brothers wouldn't talk to me, right? And I felt like that I was starting over again, like I had no progression, that I had no clean time. I started to get in a bad place, And then a string of roommates happened after that. Kicked her out, got some more in, kicked them out. They started to not do too well and not pay the rent on time. Had to kick them out, and it was just a cycle. And it kept going and kept going. And last year in July, I went to the hospital again. It was number 4. It was 14 years since I had been in a hospital for mental issues, and it had nothing to do with using drugs. It was, I'm going to pray the need for medication. I'm going to pray it away. Let me tell you, that does not work. It does not work. And a balance in my recovery is what I need, because I not only have the addiction issue, but I also, and I don't really view them as separate either. I view them as it's something that needs to be treated. I show up for my recovery, and I treat it because it's a spiritual disease and it needs a spiritual solution. A chemical imbalance needs attention from a doctor that knows what they're talking about, that prescribes medication, and it's also something that's not it's not a foolproof science. It takes, sometimes people don't do well on this medication or that medication, and they need to balance it with something else. And if you stick with it, I found that if you stick with it, you will find what works for you in the right dosage, and that then I am able to show up sane, in a clear mind, in my right mind, and in my right spirit, and work on my recovery. And that's when I can show up and work on my recovery. That felt like a tangent, but it's not really. I trust that everything that's coming out of my mouth is what needs to come out right now. So, I had to become all right with saying, look, whatever y'all say, okay, God bless you, I love you, I send you love and light, but get the hell off my case, because, this wasn't working for me, and they didn't know what it was like. That was an issue when I got caught up in old ideas where I wasn't taking care of myself. So I had to do that. I had to show up for me to do that. I had to practice principles. Asking for help, I think, should be a principle. I don't think it's one that we talk about. For several days, it seemed like this asking for help kept coming up. It was one of the meditations, and then people kept going back to it. And one time I shared in a meeting that meets on Sunday night in Surrender. It's like, yeah, I need help. I need a different place to live so I can get financially stable. And I just, at 16 years, I just blurted out that, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to do. They say that, the addict that still suffers, that's not just the newcomer coming in. Sometimes it's the old timer. Because people come in and they say, oh, you got all this time. And when I came in, my first sponsor had 15 years. And I was like, God, he's like a God. No, he's not. He's just another addict trying to get one more day. Right? And that's what I am. I'm an addict trying to get another day, trying to do the best I can. I never had this much time before. I've never been this old before. And tomorrow I'm never as old as I'm going to be tomorrow. Just keep adding another day. But being humble and working with sponsees and saying, look, I'm an addict too, and I got issues too, and sometimes they're going to rub up against each other, and sometimes I'm going to say stuff that's going to offend you. But as soon as I know it, and as soon as I realize that it has hurt you, I'm going to apologize, and we're going to mend it and move on. And if it means you got to get another sponsor, then that's what it means. When people move on, I say, hey, get what you need. Get what you need. All right, I highlighted, if while practicing these principles we allow ourselves to feel superior or inferior, we isolate ourselves. I like the phrase that talks about egomaniacs with an inferiority complex. Oh yeah. Putting on a facade of, hey, look at me, everything's all great and everything, and you're supposed to notice when I walk into a room, and the atmosphere is supposed to change. Or, the other side of that can be is the world is a dangerous place to me. It's dangerous to me, and I'm dangerous to it, because I've been there too. Bipolar has an upside and a downside. This last time that I went into the hospital, there was something that I experienced that was an edge that wasn't there before. It was a lot of anxiety, and what I was having was called tactile hallucinations. I was feeling stuff that I knew wasn't there. I saw that it wasn't there, but I wasn't taking care of myself, and more will be revealed. Something else was revealed. It's like, look, this is no joke. because after a while, that stuff wouldn't stop, and I couldn't sleep. And after not sleeping for a period of time, that alone will get you just crazy. Talking about sensations that you want to go away, and when something won't go away, and you're like, all I want is this, to stop. Then I'm in the realm of starting to have some ideations that are really bad for my health, right? Isolating, still going to meetings, but in my head I'm thinking, okay, you need to act like yourself. How does Matt act in this certain situation? Those are signs when things are not good. They're just not good. Separation from the atmosphere of recovery and from the spirit of service to others slows our spiritual growth. I need to say something about a mentor that I had before I became a professional drug addict and before I got into recovery. There's a man that just passed. He was my scoutmaster, and he just recently passed at age 77. He had a lot of health problems. He was a war hero. He rescued somebody else. He got shot twice. He got shot in the head and in the back, and he survived. He had to learn how to walk and talk all over again. It took like 18 months for him to do that. He got full disability from the Army, and then spent the rest of his life mentoring kids through Boy Scouts and Special Olympics, and he stayed very active in the BWF and all that. And just recently went to his funeral. I don't think that I ever met another person that embodied service the way that he did, and humility. Humility in action, just everything the guy did was about service and helping you get to the next place that you want to be. As a using addict, I kind of forgot about trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. They got 12 principles like we do. They're slightly different. Some of them are, the same. But I'd forgotten that cornerstone. But it was definitely something that I had gotten back to once I started sponsoring other people. And I didn't start sponsoring until I had 10 years clean, because I took a break from meetings. I took a 6-year-long break from meetings. I don't recommend it. I didn't use during that time, but that's just God's grace that I didn't. It was coming. It was coming. It definitely was. I began to recognize that I needed this program. That realization came. I was working for a place called STAND. It stands for something, but I forget what it is. It's in Decatur. And the man that started it, he was a recovering addict as well. Had a bunch of time. And they did the morning meditation of hours every day. And I was like, you know what? I need that stuff again. I've been missing it. Didn't really realize how much I'd been missing it until I'd just kind of gotten some exposure just to our daily meditation. I had began to take recovery for granted. Not a good idea, because if I take something for granted, it can leave. It can definitely leave. So I came back in 2012. That's when I started going to meetings again. Thank God, All right. I highlighted, we make mistakes and we accept and learn from them. We experience failure and we learn how to succeed. I don't think personally that failure and mistakes exist as long as there's something that I can learn from it. And I mean, the whole thing about, Edison and the light bulb. They're like, oh, yeah, you failed all those years. I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't fail all those years. I proved that this doesn't work as a filament, this doesn't, and this doesn't, and this doesn't. I was successful at proving that it doesn't work. I guess it's just your outlook. I've been married twice. I've been divorced twice. I learned a lot of what not to do anymore. I don't accept all the blame, and I don't put all the blame on the two women that I've been married to. I certainly did my part. I was better at it the second time. Definitely was. It lasted longer. I was clean the entire time. The first marriage, I was still using. It was a train wreck that taught me a lot, very much. Miles Davis said that don't worry about mistakes; they don't exist. That was something that I hung on to, and I named my son Miles. And he plays trumpet. That was definitely a blessing. So I don't call either of the marriages a mistake, because I learned from them. And I gave them their liberation both times. Okay, some of us, even after years of recovery, found ourselves jobless, homeless, and penniless. Been there. Who else has been there? Yeah, been there. I mean, it was a humbling experience, and there were some times that I just felt totally humiliated, and I had a car, but I didn't have money to put gas in it, and I got to meetings through calling somebody else, get me to a meeting. I need a meeting, please take me to a meeting. Sometimes they even bought me dinner after, because they just knew where I was. I don't worry about paying that back, but I do pay it forward. I pass it on. That's what we do in recovery. We pass it on. I've learned so much in recovery, and it was, I paid for it with each thing that I used to call a mistake, that I used to call bad and horrible. But none of it is if I learn from it. Each time that I stole, each time that I lied, that I cheated, that I adulterated, and all the rest of it, got me to this point. And I can go back to that way of life anytime that I want to, but I don't want to. I just don't want to. Highlighted a couple more things here. I've been given the 10 mark. We have learned to value the respect of others. I used to talk about so much, I don't give a shit what you think. I totally did. I just wanted to put up this front, like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. I wrote a song called Whatever. I'm not going to sing it now because it was not a nice song. It was about an ex. I'm not going to induce that karma into my life right now. We are pleased when people depend on us. For the first time in our lives, we may be asked to serve in positions of responsibility in community organizations outside of NA. I never get to do anything that I say no to, or that I don't put myself in a position to be asked to do something. If I avoid it, it feels like using. A movie that I really like, A Bronx Tale. De Niro talked about the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. If you got talent, use it. Put it where it can be of use to somebody else. Doing something like this, speaking in, frightens the bloody hell out of some people. I mean, it's a daunting experience, but after a while, when you kind of find a balance and you get that, it kind of evens out. They can be proud of us today. People can be proud of us today. And I need to be all right with that. Let somebody be proud of me and accept it. I can accept the tough things, but as addicts, a lot of times we can't even accept a compliment. Hey, you look great today. Fuck you. No, I gained 20 pounds or whatever. No, I'm just say thank you and move on. Pass it on to somebody else. The reinforcement received by sponsorship is limitless. I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read it again because I got sponsorship family people in the room right now. The reinforcement received by sponsorship is limitless. I wanted to do this because I need to attract more humility in my life. After getting into recovery and getting into our literature, it led me to other literature that it just attracted it my way. I believe that the more we accept unity as a real cornerstone in our lives, that not only do I cease to recognize the difference between me and you, but if I just say there is no me and you, there's just us, there's just we, there's just I, that we are one, then a lot of our problems get solved. They just do. Like, why do I want to take a handful of gravel like I did the other day? I did this, I'm telling on myself. I took a handful of gravel and I threw it at another car just because they were honking at me and because I was going too slow for them and they were flicking a bird. And I'm like, oh, I got something for you. Yeah. So I had a little handful of gravel that goes on the top of plants and I chucked it at them. What'd they do to me? They did the same thing. They threw something at me. Not a great thing to do. That's not spiritual, but sometimes I do shit that's not spiritual. But then when I tell on myself in front of a group of people, not only a group of people, but a group of addicts, people that I call my family, that can say, look, you need to not do that shit anymore. Practice humility. So I believe my time is up, and I'm going to turn it over to Roland. I'm very, very glad to have a chance to speak, and thanks for letting me share.
Thank you.
I'm Roland the Matic.
Hey, Roland.
Thank God for Narcotics Anonymous, man, and thank God for Narcotics Anonymous, and thank God for sponsorship, and thank God for the literature. And yes, Myron, I'm getting ready to get up. I need your permission to stand, because they sit us down here in these chairs, and so, and I guess that's what they wanted me to do. So an act of humility would be to ask you for your permission to stand. Do I have you? Yeah. Thank you. I wasn't gonna stay sitting, no way. And I hail from the Recovery at Work group in Dallas, Texas, right? And we call it the Raw Group, and we're a literature oriented group. All we do is study literature, So what I'm going to try to do for you is I'm going to try my experience, my strength, and my hope in my understanding of the application of humility in my life. I personally believe that if I get the opportunity to share anything about Narcotics Anonymous, this should be how I recover in Narcotics Anonymous. And there's some basic things that are in our literature that I think that is real important that I need to remember every day. And one of them is a passage in the literature that says humility is as essential for recovery as food and water is for staying alive. You know what I mean? And I kind of laugh because I think back in 1990 I started saying that I'm Roland, I'm an addict, I'm an egotistical maniac that suffers from an inferiority complex. See what I'm saying? But that was because of some step work that I had done, that I recognized based upon my history. I was the most arrogant and pompous person that I knew once I looked at the way I treated others. And so at that particular point, I didn't like what I saw, so I made an attempt to do what the literature talks about when it talks about a personality change is what we need the most. So I set out on a course, not to be the same example in Narcotics Anonymous as I was before I got here. You know what I mean? And there was 3 things I think that I was taught to do in order to find out really and truly who I was and how important humility would be to my character, right? And that was the personal inventory, right? When I looked at the inventory, I saw, that I had a humble spirit, and somewhere along the line, I got hurt, and I refused to allow that to happen to me again, so I became arrogant. And I portrayed the arrogance all the way up until I got to Narcotics Anonymous. I'm one of them kind of guys that I got a background that sometimes when I think about my background, it seems so far-fetched that I would end up in Narcotics Anonymous. Right? I probably have the experiences. I've probably experienced most things that men dream about. Right? I probably have been so material wealthy at one particular point or 2 particular points in my life. That where I didn't even put a place of value on currency, right? And that perpetuated the arrogance. right? Because I always seek power through using other things outside of me to dictate what I needed you to do for me. And that kind of got me to a place where I found myself in what's called a dilemma, right? And the dilemma is that I could never be fucking satisfied. See what I'm saying? And that brought about a chain reaction to where I harmed everybody that I came in contact with. You know, and after viewing it, as the literature said, we cannot deny it when we see it written down on paper. Because it'll be staring us in the face, so no longer than I deny what my life had become based upon a faulty belief system. So I had to alter the belief system in order to get to the humility. And thank God for the program of Narcotics Anonymous, because it says true humility is the acceptance of one's assets and liabilities. Right? So I have to evaluate what I'm good at and what I ain't good at. You know what I mean? And I gotta profess, or either I got to exhibit what I'm good in, okay, and then I have to ask for help in the things that I'm not good in. But I don't know about y'all. I wasn't good at doing that in my first 5 years around. Really. You know what I mean? I was one of them kind of guys in the first 5 years that I waved my clean time banner. What about you? See what I'm saying? Not understanding, okay, that people were going to lose respect for me along the way based upon what they saw about me. You know, I used to talk to my sponsor all the time. My sponsor used to say some crazy shit to me, right? And I didn't understand it, but I understand it today, right? I told him, I said, man, these people keep taking my inventory, man. I don't like that shit. He said, don't nobody take your inventory, boy. You give it to them. That was one of them humiliation pieces that I needed in order to get home. Our literature says most of us have to be humiliated before we find humility. See what I'm saying? And so for me, I'm real grateful for this process, right? And I don't do this much because I do this if you're new in here, right? My clean date is March 27, 1988. In 6 days, I have 31 years, right? And I ain't took no vacation since I've been here. You know, when I say I ain't took no vacation, there's probably not been one day out of them 31 years that I haven't attempted to make a meeting if I didn't make one. Now, see what I'm saying? Because the humility was to accept what I suffer from. Yes. I suffer from an incurable disease called addiction, which is a violent, destructive power greater than me. Yes. See what I'm saying? And I have to understand the humility part is to accept that it is treatable. You know what I mean? And that's that part in our literature when it talks about recovery is my responsibility. You know what I mean? And God gave me the gift of awareness. Once I got the gift of awareness, then I had to take responsibility for the change that has to be created in my life. And thank God, I've learned a lot of things along the way. You know what I mean? For me, I think that the example of the 12th step is really where my humility shows. You know what I mean? How do I treat others knowing that they have less knowledge than I do about what we suffer from? You know what I mean? I have to ask myself this question, right? I got 31 years clean. I sponsor a group of men. Let me say, no, I don't sponsor them. I work with them. See what I'm saying? And I need to put that out front because that gives me an air of humility when I say I work with you instead of being arrogant and letting sponsorship dictate a personality that really truly is not me. Right. So I work with a lot of people. You know, I get an opportunity to do this quite a bit. You know what I mean? And this right here is humbling when you do it in the spirit of service, right? Because you don't never know what's going to come out your mouth. Right. Believe me. You know what I mean? And when you do and you go home and you say, oh, did I say that? You know what I mean? And then you have to go inward again and look at the fallibilities that you say that you don't have based upon your inability to look at your 7th step on a consistent basis. You know what I mean? Because the 7th step, the base principle, is humility, right? But for me, I'm a step working kind of guy. I believe in our literature, I believe in sponsorship. So I've explored enough to know that the initial humility came in the first step. See what I'm saying? And it came in the first step, but I wasn't aware of it because in the symbol, it told me that there were a lot of unseen parts to the simple outline. And I will only become aware of it the more I seek it. See what I'm saying? So I found out that at the moment that I conceded to my innermost self, that I suffer from a disease called addiction, I was practicing humility. See, and whenever I started to do that, then I had I got permission from somebody else for them to work work with me. And that means when I had the courage, okay, which is an act of humility, to ask somebody to sponsor me and to be willing to follow their direction. And that's one of the hardest pieces that I had to come by, because I was so used to being the fucking boss. You know what I mean? And kind of college education, right? So, you know what I mean? I know every goddamn thing. So it was hard for me to believe that I didn't know anything about this way of life. So when I started to concede to those things, right, I started to get a humble spirit and allow somebody else to teach me what I did not know. You know, today I understand humility on a completely different level, and it's based in our 12 step. Right? In the 12 step, it talks about that we're tempted to give advice. You know what I mean? And when you work with a lot of people, right, and you're still active in service, and for me, I'm the secretary of my home group. Right? I get there 30 minutes prior, and I stay 30 minutes late. I mop floors. You know, I set out literature. I make sure all this stuff is done, and I try to get it done before anybody gets there. See what I'm saying? Because of the principle of humility and how humility actually gives you a greater feeling about oneself than bragging on oneself. So by doing that, I get an opportunity to see a lot of people come in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous that are brand new. Okay, and for me, I believe in the principle of equality. You know what I mean? Because I got almost 31 years clean, right? I've been through the step working process numerous of times. Right, I understand principle, right? And I've learned to have the courage enough to stand by principle. And if you read our literature, it says when you start standing by principle, most of the time you find yourself standing alone. Okay, it takes great humility to stand on principle. But for me, I think that the fortitude comes from the actual 12 step when it told me what I've already done is I've had a spiritual awakening. See what I'm saying? As a result of the previous 11 steps, right? So now I have a greater awareness of what my perfect will is. You know, I think somewhere in the literature it talks about, it says, for the first time we finally found our purpose. You know what I mean? And it's hard to maintain humility and keep your purpose alive, okay, based upon material success or what other people think that you buy into. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'm real grateful for being here this length of time, okay, and having an understanding of my 11th step, okay, because now I can look anybody in the eye, right, which is the act of humility, to hold my head up and look you in your eye and be as honest with you as I possibly can. See, because most of the time I don't have that ability. You know, I don't know whether y'all like me. See, I can share with you most of the time I'm only as honest as I want to be. Not as honest as I could be. See what I'm saying? So I'm making an attempt, right, to be more rigorous honesty than I ever have before, because I know how it's a character building experience that I want to be able to appreciate in order to be able to further carry a message to somebody that's rarely been the recipient of kindness. See what I'm saying? So when I think about the 12 step, I think about how many guys that I work with and the people that I work with all over the country, because I have a lot of people call me because I'm a friendly kind of guy. You know what I mean? I just am. You know what I mean? Boom, I'll do anything for anybody. And some of the guys that I work with said I do that to a fault sometimes, right? You know what I mean? But the reality of it is I'm trying to experience the joy that comes from an act of humility. See what I'm saying? So in the 11th step, it talks about, and it talks about it in essence when it talks about being feeling good about ourselves with or without. Okay, and I'm here to share with you, for me, it's an act of humility to continue this process, right, without having all the material success that others have around you. See what I'm saying? And still be the stand-up principle kind of guy and still carry this message, right? One of the things that I harp on a lot is because I understand that if I'm actually practicing humility, I will never try to take over the management of anybody else's life. See what I'm saying? Because whenever I try to take over the management of somebody else's life, I've just lost humility because I put my God suit back on. right? And see, I don't know whether y'all like me or not. See, when I got here, I always believed in God, but I always acted like it was me. See what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And it brought me a lot of grief and pain. See what I'm saying? And I don't have to experience that anymore if I don't want to. See what I'm saying? I got this thing about the way that I practice stuff with people that I find out there's humility for this act. Right? As I stand here before you, and I say this all the time, and a whole lot of people just look at me crazy, but as I stand before you, I'm not in conflict with any other human being on the face of the earth. See what I'm saying? For real. Because I got a good first step. See what I'm saying? And the ability to practice it. Then I have three initial things that I say to myself whenever I feel my spirit start to erupt, where I want to get your ass. See what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I mean? So I stop for a minute, right? And I utilize my second step, right? Because I'm supposed to have matured and gained some wisdom by now, right? I slow down and consider all aspects of the situation before acting, right? And when I do that, I ask myself three questions. Have I done it? Have I thought about doing it? Or am I capable of doing it? See what I'm saying? The humility piece says that if you're an addict and you suffer from the disease of addiction, you're the sickest person that you know, so that means you're capable of doing any goddamn thing that looks right. See what I'm saying? You know, and be honest with yourself about yourself. Yeah. See what I'm saying? I think that what parallels humility is self-acceptance, right? I think they're synonymous in its own way if I would explore it. Right? But for me, I'm not slothful, right? Because for me, I believe, right, that this is a Just for the Day program. And I should be looking at myself daily. See what I'm saying? Because really and truly, what goes on outside of me ain't none of my business. You know, what goes on inside of me is what makes me have the ability to deal with life on life's terms in its presence. That's right. And that's an act of humility. I don't know whether y'all like me. I would love to procrastinate. See what I'm saying? But I know that procrastination is the symptom, right? And the true nature of the beast is the apathy. See what I'm saying? So why am I so apathetic that I want to short circuit my spiritual development? Okay, so if I'm humble, I'll realize that, and I'll take the necessary actions that is called for, right? And for me, that's a 10th step. See what I'm saying? And thank God for sponsorship, because I've learned, man, I ain't got to wait till midnight to take a 10th step. See what I'm saying? You know, I can get free whenever I want to. See what I'm saying? You know, for me it's important because my attitude and my outlook on the situation, whatever event that's occurring in my life right now, depends on the way I view it. Okay? And most of the time it's a self-centered view. The humility says that it can't be self-centered. It should be selfless. But I don't know whether y'all like me or not. Whole lot of times I just ain't got that humility. Because it seems like every time I'm selfless, everybody else gain. I don't get a motherfucking thing. See what I'm saying? You know, for real. See what I'm saying? And I kind of don't like the way that makes me feel sometimes. You know what I mean? But the beauty in it all is I sleep well at night. See what I'm saying? You know, so for me, when I go to viewing this thing, I have to look at how I conduct myself based upon my purpose. I don't know whether y'all like me or not, but I firmly believe that I was chosen. Yeah. See what I'm saying? Yeah. And by me being chosen, the humility part in that is to choose what I've been chosen for. See what I'm saying? And then conduct myself in that manner. Yeah. Right? And I believe that my purpose is to stay clean, right? And carry the message about how Narcotics Anonymous can affect you in a way that you won't believe that is who you are. That's right. Y'all hear me? Because there's been a dramatic change in my life. You know what I mean? I'm talking about dramatic. You know what I mean? And I've had some things happen to me in this program and I don't wish on nobody. You know what I mean? I've been rich and broken this motherfucker 3 times. See what I'm saying? You know? Yeah, for real. But that ain't stopped me from going to the meeting. Yeah. That's right. See what I'm saying? That didn't stop me from going in there sharing. Right. See what I'm saying? Really, I share exactly where I am. You know what I mean? Be it good, bad, or the ugly. Because true humility says that that's what I owe you, is I owe you the truth in order for you to be able to, in return, give me the truth when I need it. You know what I mean? So when I start to look at it, I start to look at the combination of how the program of Narcotics Anonymous and its principles have developed a character living man. You know what I mean? And for me, I'm real grateful for that, right? Because I don't have to, man, I can go anywhere. I absolutely can go anywhere. You know what I mean? And feel like I'm covered. Y'all get with that? Yeah. See what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And I got some people in here, and they are amazed, because sometimes I am too. You know what I mean? I'll give you a little shot, a little story. I'm not a good storyteller. You know what I mean? I don't like fabrications and shit, and I think when you tell stories, you be fabricating like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? So I ain't just one of those, right? You know what I mean? But I had an automobile, and it was stolen, right? And I think 3 days later, I was given an automobile, right? I drove it back and forth to the meeting because at that particular time, I was driving 60 miles a day, going to the meeting and home. And that was every day, right? I got in that car after having it 6 days and went to Long Beach, California from Dallas, Texas. Had $55 in my pocket. They looked at me crazy. You know what I said? I got a good third step in my life. Okay? And humility will allow your third step to work for you. See what I'm saying? Because if you don't have no humility, the third step won't work. See, so I think that when I start to look at this, I start to look at the progression of the step working process that give me a different view about life and the way I should conduct myself in life. You know what I mean? I'm real grateful to understand that life is how I live. See, okay. You know what I mean? And for me, I try to use humility as a cornerstone of my recovery. Because y'all know what it is. I see a lot of people in here, and I know a bunch of y'all got time. Y'all know how difficult it is and how you struggle in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous with time. You got the haters on one side. You know, you got the people that want to take your place on the other. Then you got the character assassinators in the back. You know what I mean? And then you got them newcomers that think they know more than your ass. You know? And you really and truly, I'm talking about you really and truly, right? Have to be humble in order to carry the message, because in the message it says it should be loving and kind. In the way I articulate it, in order to have the ability to help you, right? Because when I help you, most of all, I help myself. Okay, and that's something that I need to learn how to accept. That without you, there is no me. Since based upon damn, I had a mind fart. Anybody old as me? Based upon the unity piece, right? All right, and everything that I'm sharing with you, somebody else taught me. That's right. See what I'm saying? They taught me. Then I practiced it. It worked for me. So I continue to utilize it as a way of daily living. You know what I mean? If you go anywhere around Texas, right? I'm pretty well known, right? And I'm a Nazi. You know what I mean? So y'all know. And to let y'all know that Nazi has some humility to it, because it means it's a Narcotics Anonymous zealous individual. Oh, yeah. See what I'm saying? Like that. I have a zeal, okay, for this program. Okay? You know what I mean? And the zeal keeps me motivated in order for my life to be buoyant. See what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And I think that's the phrase that it's talking about when it says if you never leave the basics, you never have to go back to the basics. See what I'm saying? and what happens for me, I realize what it's talking about when it's talking about the program. Okay, and I use this. There's a guy here that I work with, and he used it so profoundly one day that I had a whole lot of people questioning it, right? And when they came to me to question it, I showed them where it was at, right? And then now everybody done picked it up. You know what I mean? And I say this in all humility, because I think that we're probably getting away from what our real message is, based upon our message. See what I'm saying? There's a distinction that needs to be made. Maybe it will motivate newer members to utilize the program in their life. And I said the program, right? Because the program is the 12 steps, right? See what I'm saying? After having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps is the message. Right. See what I'm saying? But if you don't take the 12 steps, are you ever going to have a fucking message? I'm just, it might be a little controversial. See what I'm saying? But that's a kind of a deeper level of looking at stuff. Because for me, I believe that I continue to use every single day, and the motivation for Narcotics Anonymous and the application of its principles is designed for me to get to a place where I don't have to use. See what I'm saying? I ain't did no dope. Okay, since March 27, 1988. So I don't need to be running around in the program of Narcotics Anonymous talking about this, always about the dope. Right. See what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And I don't dispute the literature, right? And I don't like people that do, right? And I stand for it because it is an asset, right? You know what I mean? Our literature says drugs was a symptom of the process. Sponsor taught me that what I need to be trying to find out is what took me to the motherfuckers. See what I'm saying? So it's the same thing in my using today. Why I feel so bad about myself or not being able to accept my present reality, so I need something outside of me, okay, to make me okay with something that I'm supposed to be okay with anyway, because it's God's perfect will. See what I'm saying? And so I had to humble myself and realize, right? But I ain't got there yet. You know what I mean? I think for me, and it's real humbling for me to say, I think that if I ever get there, I ain't fucking with y'all no more. So for real. I'll be thinking that I'm just this covered up kind of guy, right? I think I'll be practicing we do recover in the wrong sense. You know what I mean? And so for me, I have to keep honestly sharing that in order for the humility to be presented within me, to recognize that I really and truly shouldn't have to have anything outside of me. But for those that don't know why I talk to the using, because I think that we still keep talking about dope so motherfucking much in our meetings, okay, that is diluting our message, because in our literature it says that the name Narcotics Anonymous does not do justice to the fulfillment of Narcotics Anonymous. Right. You know what I mean? 1953 it was about dope. You know what I mean? 1972 was about the disease of addiction. Right. You know what I mean? It ain't got nothing to do with it. Just nothing. It's got how I exploit things outside of me selfishly that make me think I'm fucking okay. You know what I mean? And today, that's the reason why I stay here. And it's an act of humility for me to tell y'all that I use. Man, I'm an icon in Texas. You know what I mean? Well, hey. You know what I mean? And that's just a reality. See what I'm saying? But if you talk to anybody, right, that spent 15 or 20 minutes with me, you'll know that what is projected through my confidence is not arrogance. It's humility. See what I'm saying? But I'm a strong kind of guy, and I'm confident in my belief. Y'all don't hear me. Right. I know what this program has done for me. I don't know what the fuck it has done for you, but I know what it's done for me. Y'all don't hear me. See what I'm saying? You know, so for me, I kind of utilize it in that way. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's all about, right, me being able, right, to look outside of myself and see where I can be of service without looking for anything in return. You know what I mean? But that's a hard nut to come by, you know, if you anything like me, right? Because I don't know whether y'all like it or not. You know what I mean? Seriously, I can be a spiritual giant, man, and trying my best to do the right thing for the right reason, and blink my eye and say, fuck you. You know, I refer to that as a stock raving lunatic. See what I'm saying? You know, based upon a disease that's progressive, that don't need my permission to show up in my life. See what I'm saying? You know, I don't know whether y'all like me. Get some time in this program and see if the disease come at you the same way it did in your first 15 or 20 years. You don't do that to me no more. You know, it used to come in the form of a vagina. I found out that that's immediate pain. See, so I don't let that one capture me no more. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, for real. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Then it showed up in blueberry ice cream. You know what I mean? Eating too much of that shit, knowing that I'm lactose intolerant. See what I'm saying? You know, now it comes at me in subtle forms of, I think though, the something that I know that I suffer from is I have a need to be needed. And sometimes the need to be needed will have me compromising principle, okay, and getting on the other side of asking myself, why did I do that?
Come on, go on and share.
See what I'm saying? But thank God I got a second tradition in my life that will allow me to leave the baseball bat in the goddamn closet. See what I'm saying? The second tradition say no one of us is capable of making good decisions on a consistent basis. See what I'm saying? You know, so I allow myself the freedom to be human. And I think that that's really the true principle behind humility, is humanity. See what I'm saying? Allowing myself to be human, to be fallible, and know that I make mistakes. I'm not a mistake. See? But all that comes from step work, y'all. You know, I didn't have this attitude until about the second or third round in the steps. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I stand before you today and I'm going to make a bold statement. Don't y'all get mad at me. But I'm going to say it any motherfucking way. See what I'm saying? Thank God I learned that it was an act of humility, okay, not to use my 10-year-old step work in today's process.
Right.
See what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Because the brother kind of read something out of it. And we got a chapter more to be revealed. I don't know whether y'all like me. I'm powerless in ways today that I wasn't when I first got here. You don't hear me? Yeah. See what I'm saying? And that's because I'm an intellect. You know, I still think I got some juice sometimes too. What about you? You know what I mean? You know how it is. You get all these accolades and shit. You know what I mean? Come on now. Good Sharon, motherfucker, Sharon. You know what I mean? And if you're not careful, right, the disease will slip in on your ass. You know, you be running around here working on everybody else and it ain't working on you. You know, really. Dying on the inside. See what I'm saying? Because you ain't looked at you in the name of fucking recovery and helping somebody. You know what I mean? So for me, I think that it's an act of humility for me to share that with y'all. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I might not ever get invited here again. So I take the opportunity, right, to share my experience, strength, and hope, and my understanding of the program of Narcotics Anonymous and what it can do for you if you will embrace it. Because it has to be embraced. You know what I mean? And for me, it's the only way I found. This the only way for me to live. And I don't care what nobody else do. I really don't. Because ain't none of my business no way. You know, if I'm implementing my first step, right? See what I'm saying? But I try to encourage people, right, to take on this way of life. Because I have found this is the best thing since sliced bread, man. You know what I mean? For real, based upon the first word in our text. Simplicity. Have y'all looked that word up? If you look that word up, you'll quit talking about this is a hard, difficult program. Because that word is synonymous with easy. Some of y'all ain't been using no dictionary. Yeah. I just, you know what I mean, and you know what I mean, I come from a group, right? In our group, we read 3 sentences. We stop, we look up words. Right in the middle of the sentence. We'll look the sentence up and we get everybody have a clear understanding of what it is. See what I'm saying? And then we discuss it. That way you get 4 or 5 different views of it in order for you to come to an understanding for yourself. See, I believe that for me, if I'm being humble, being teachable is tied to humility. See what I'm saying? You know, I believe that me as a male in Narcotics Anonymous should evolve with the times. And it's humbling to evolve with the times. It is. It really is. See what I'm saying? Because I'm not too computer literate. And these little young motherfuckers coming in the program now, they'll take their cell phones and do shit with them motherfuckers that you ain't even thought about doing. And you have to acknowledge that. Yeah. See what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And those kinds of things keep me buoyant, right? Because I don't even, you know, I keep a lot of young guys around me, man. I really do. Because, you know, once you get somebody that work with they got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, they ain't listening to your motherfucking ass no way. They ain't got no humility. They think they know more than the damn teacher. Right. You know what I mean? The teacher make more means than they do, but they know more than him. You know? And I say that because it takes humility to continue, right? To work with them as best you can. See what I'm saying? To be there for them when they ain't called you in a month, and they ask you to get on the farm, and they call you at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they want you to babysit till 5. See what I'm saying? And you got to sit on the phone. Okay. When the last time you did an assignment, man? You know, that kind of thing. You know, and I share that, man, because for me, the fellowship needs it, right? And for me, I have to be humble enough to realize and accept what gave me the life that I have today. You know, them 2 cars, them nice houses, you know what I mean? Them kids going off to school, you know what I mean? Paying tithes. You know, where that shit come from? You know, I can do all of that, but I can't get back to narcotics now. I don't think there's no humility in that. See what I'm saying? You know, so for me, I make sure that I don't do what I see others do. You know what I mean? And that's an act of humility for me. I don't know whether I said anything that will encourage you to look at the principle of humility, define it for yourself, and see how you implement it in your life. What I do know is I 12-step myself. Thank you, Macon, for having me.
Okay, we can circle up and close with the serenity prayer.